Hi there, I'm Birgit O'Connor and welcome to my studio. Now, we just finished a workshop of these peach peonies, and basically the idea was about harmonizing color. Now, one of the challenges that we have a lot of times is that, let's say you have an area where you've applied color and you don't know how to lift it out. There's a very simple fix for that. You don't have to scrub the surface. I'm going to show you how to just lay down some water, lift a little color out. You can do that with a brush. You can do that with a magic eraser. And really, let's say the purpose of this particular workshop was, as you can see behind me, if we're trying to get some depth inside the flowers, let's say you have some different petals or different colors in different petals, which is a very common thing that I've seen in my workshops. So how do we pull that all back together? Now, I'm just going to show you a very simple exercise. It's not the whole demonstration, but if you're interested in something like that, you can always visit my website and get the replay of the workshop. So let's go over to the table and take a look. Now, as you can see, my table is a real mess, but why I'm showing you these two things is that I want you to see the difference of what's happening here. This is student grade paper. It's fun if you want to do a real loose painting. So let's say you have something like this. How in the world could you fix that? Basically, let's get some water on there. Take a magic eraser. This usually comes in a block. Something like this. I just tore off a little piece. And this isn't going to be perfect because this is, like I said, student grade paper. I'm just going to wet this, get this wet, remove the extra water, tap it on a towel, and then I'm just going to gently rock it back and forth. Dab, dab, dab. And we don't want to stamp the paper, so I'll go ahead, just remove this and just lightly lift it. Now, the student grade paper is not ideal, but we can work with it. And then to even out the color, we would just brush over that again. But if you want to get a smooth wash or controlled color, you really don't want to use the student grade paper because you're going to get nothing but blooms. It really depends what you're trying to do and the effect that you want to get. But if I want smooth color, I'm going to use a higher quality paper, which would actually be like Arches or some other brand, whatever your favorite brand of paper is. And this is not perfect. This is a little worksheet that I have here, but I wanted you to notice the blooms. And the idea with this one was actually trying to show if you have different petals, how you can harmonize the color. And if we have something like this, let's say you have color everywhere that just isn't perfect, we can harmonize it. Let's say I want to pull out this shape. Now, I'm really not going to worry too much about the colors that I'm using because basically what I want to do is I want to harmonize these two areas. I want to pull this petal forward. How am I going to do that? I'm going to go wet on dry, pull the color up, just like that, and pull this out a little further. So now what will happen is that that area that wasn't working for me will have a glaze of color over it that I can work with. And then once that dries, I can go ahead and separate the colors again. And that would be very similar to something like this. Now for this one, all I need to do is add a background. And if I want to think about what colors do I want to choose, I could use a color wheel. I could use complementary colors. I could use a Duralar wet media film, put this over it, and then decide what colors I want to use. Or let's take a look at this. This is another one. I can see on this one that it needs a bit more color. We have a lot of yellow over here. Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want to push this back. Let's say I want to push that back. Using that same idea that I just showed you, I'm going to go ahead and just roll this back a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing that I just showed you. I need a little more color in my wells here. It's the end of the day. My container is dirty. My palette is dirty. Everything's a mess, but I'm going to work with it. I'm going to put a little bit more of my yellow in there. It's not going to be pristine, but it will be effective. I'm going to push this area back and I'm going to go right over some of my colors right through here. Going right over my darks, which could be problematic. We could end up with a little mud, which we don't want, but we can handle that. I'm going to push that area back. I think I'm going to go a little bit darker right through here. Then I'll take a large number 30 brush, pull that color out. Pull that down, and that'll give you some idea how I would use that technique that I just showed you. And then I would continue working with that to eventually harmonize my petals and then separate them with, or push this area back by glazing over it. So there's lots of things that we could do. Now, before I let you go, I wanted to show you what can be done using this technique by looking at just a couple student paintings. In this painting here, she's done a really wonderful job and has broken up the shape. She's harmonized the basic foundation of her painting. But the problem is once we start to separate some of the petals, some areas can be a little thick and other areas may be a little flat. So I told her to use some water, go over the entire painting. Now here is the result. Now she just needs to get a little more depth in here, but overall she has done such an incredible job just by playing with the amount of water on the surface. Now that was just supposed to be a fun little tip so you know how you can lift your color back out, and you might think that it doesn't look great or it's not exactly what you want. Don't worry about it. Work with what you have, let the color dry, step away from your painting, and then come back to it later. Now, I hope that this has inspired you and given you some ideas of things you can do with your paintings. And if you're interested in the replay, just visit the link below. And until next time, have fun and happy painting.